is day 4 of week 10 of 52 weeks of vlogging, and I had no idea that on Tuesday, while I was filming my video for YouTube about GMOs and how, yes, they could be amazing because they could give us a new way to deliver vaccines cheaply and easily, and that would be incredible for people in third world countries and for people who can't tolerate the vaccines that are available now, and for basically everybody, because, like, why are we injecting formaldehyde into our bodies all the time? But then GMOs also have a major downside, which is that they allow the spraying of even more pesticides and chemicals and herbicides on our food that we are going to eat. President Obama, my guy, the guy I supported, the guy who supports renewable energy, the guy who stands up for equal rights for everybody, no matter whether they're gay or straight or black or white or an immigrant or not, that guy was signing into law an act that would make it illegal to stop a company from selling seeds that were genetically modified, even if it is proven that those seeds are harmful. Obama, you're letting me down, man. So how could he even do this? How could he sign this act into law? This is the Monsanto Protection Act Redux. This piece of legislation, officially called the Farmer Assurance Provision, but unofficially dubbed the Monsanto Protection Act, is actually not the major piece of legislation that the president was signing into law. It was added as an amendment at the last minute, before most people had a chance to review it and see what it actually said, to a bigger piece of legislation, a much bigger piece of legislation, a 240-page piece of legislation called HR 933, otherwise known as House Resolution 933, otherwise known as the thing we're going to do to get out of this big sequester problem, otherwise known as a budget. And in case you're wondering what a 240-page bill looks like, it looks like this. And I know that's what 240 pages of legislation looks like because I printed it. 240 pages? It's ridiculous. How many of the senators and congressmen voting on it actually read all of that stuff? That's longer than Harry Potter, except without the awesome and with about 1,000,000 times more added boredom. Now, realistically, most of the senators and congressmen probably didn't even read the entire piece of legislation, and with amendments being added at the last second, no surprise that most of the Democrats in the Senate didn't even realize that Section 735, otherwise known as the Monsanto Protection Act, had even been added to the bill, which frankly is something I think we should all be concerned about. I mean, why are we letting senators and congressmen vote on legislation that they haven't even read and therefore obviously can't completely understand every aspect of? I mean, what are we paying these people for? And in addition to that, the fact that most Democrats in the Senate did not know that this had been added to the bill is also worrisome. I mean, do they not run this through some kind of process? Does it not go through a review committee? What's going on? How are things being tacked onto bills without half the Senate knowing about it? Even more worrisome to me is the fact that Monsanto actually co-wrote this bill along with Republican Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri. And that raises a whole other batch of concerns, like why are we letting companies co-write legislation which will then give them an advantage by allowing them to continue to do things that have been proven to be harmful without having to face the consequences of what they're doing? What? But what does the Monsanto Protection Act actually say? Does it really basically give them immunity? Since I printed it, I can read it to you. Section 735. In the event that a determination of non-regulated status made pursuant to Section 411 of the Plant Protection Act is or has been invalidated or vacated, the Secretary of Agriculture shall, notwithstanding any other provision of law, upon request by a farmer, grower, farm operator, or producer, immediately grant temporary permits or temporary deregulation in part, subject to necessary and appropriate conditions consistent with Section 411A and 412C of the Plant Protection Act, which interim conditions shall authorize the movement, introduction, continued cultivation, commercialization, and other specifically enumerated activities and requirements, including measures designed to mitigate or minimize potential adverse environmental effects, if any, relevant to the Secretary's evaluation of the petition for non-regulated status, while ensuring that growers or other users are able to move, plant, cultivate, introduce into commerce, and carry out other authorized activities in a timely manner, provided that all such conditions shall be applicable only for the interim period necessary for the Secretary to complete any required analyses or consultations related to the petition for non-regulated status. provided further that nothing in this section shall be construed as limiting the Secretary's authority under Section 411, 412, and 414 of the Plant Protection Act. What that means is if Farmer Jones plants GMO soy or genetically engineered soy, the act covers both those things, and then the very next day, scientist I'm a rootin' tootin' publishes a peer-reviewed paper detailing that their study has shown that that plant that Farmer Jones just planted the day before is indeed causing cancer or birth defects or making people spontaneously generate third eyeballs. Farmer Jones gets to keep on growing this plant, cultivating it, selling it, moving it around, what have you. This is messed up! Where is consumer protection in all this? Where is my right, especially with GMO labeling not being a requirement, to know what I'm eating, number one, and number two, be able to choose something that is not proven to give me cancer or cause me to spontaneously generate a third eyeball. And I know that this was buried in a bill that was meant to end the sequester and get the US out of a whole buttload of economic trouble, but at the same time, the president should have said, that's not okay, that's not constitutional, eliminate that and send it back to me. This is exactly the kind of thing that President Obama campaigned against when he ran for president in 2008. And I am disappointed in you, Mr. President, because you said you were going to get rid of this kind of crap. You said you were going to get rid of the extra crud being stuck into laws like this that had nothing to do with the law. This paragraph has nothing to do with the finances of the country. It's preceded by a paragraph about money and it's followed by a paragraph about money, but the paragraph itself, not about money. It had no business in this bill at all. And you should have said so, Mr. President. I never liked Bush. I hated Bush's economic policies. I hated Bush's foreign policies. I really hated Bush's inability to correctly pronounce the word nuclear. But I can say one thing for President Bush, and that is that he had balls. Where are your balls, President Obama? Ugh, this is not what America is supposed to be about. Some people are gonna say, no big deal, it's a temporary measure. It's only valid until the end of September, but it sets a very, very dangerous precedent. Who's to say more things like this aren't gonna sneak into laws in the future? This is obviously gonna come up again. I can't imagine that Monsanto and Senator Blunt would have co-authored an amendment to a bill only to have it expire in another 6 or 7 or 8 months. I hope that next time this comes up, the president makes a better decision. Even before that, it shouldn't even land on the president's desk. The Senate and the House should make a better decision. Do better. And maybe I will vote for you again. Because this is going to come up again, it's even more important that we do something about it now. So there are links in the description to petitions and to articles that you can share, because we need to make our voices heard and we need to make our congresspeople and our senators aware of our feelings on this issue. Thank you for watching. It was kind of a rant, but I hope it was worth it, and I will see you tomorrow.